This almost life-size statue of St. Joseph and the child Jesus is one of three from the former St. Anne Church, now St. Clement Parish in Ottawa. We're going to begin a restoration project because in the 1960s, these statues were whitewashed. It was a trend at the time, and essentially a white coat of paint put over everything. If you come around to this side, you'll be able to see we used a non-abrasive chemical remover to start getting underneath the paint so you can see what some of the previous detail looked like. So we're going to remove what we can. It can't all be removed, but we're going to see what we can find underneath and then try to restore the statue as close as possible to the original artist's vision, but also with some artistic license in the year 2020. First stage for us then is going to be to remove any loose debris. You can see that the finger was broken. We're going to get down underneath the layers of dust and everything first to see exactly what we're working with.
The second stage is to repair the broken thumb, first with epoxy inside, then plaster from the outside, and carefully examining the statue from top to the base, replastering or resculpting as needed, and applying primer and then base colors to the tunic, the cape, and outer garments, carefully ensuring the primer has done its job to reduce too much paint absorption, which could weaken or even threaten to crumble the plaster.
For some of the more intricate design and detail, Pauline, you began with the idea of a stencil, but you've done a lot of it by hand.
Yes, I use the stencil as a guide, but I prefer to draw it on myself so that it allows me to have more freedom for the final look.
The meticulous artistic work continues, adding depth and dimension all around St. Joseph's Cape. The glistening gold trim painted atop two yellow base coats for rich, lasting color.
Part of the way of achieving very natural skin tones is to have an extensive palette of different shades to bring out the different lights and shadows.
With the garments and folds, the base, the hand-painted stencil work completed, Pauline is now working on some of the final touches on hands and faces.
An almost endless blend of shades on the palette create natural-looking folds and creases in a soft-looking garment created from plain white plaster. And the now finished faces seemingly watch Pauline do her work.
While work continues on the main portion of the statue, we've had a chance to repair the lily staff. The wooden staff is now painted brown and been sanded down, but this section of it, the plant itself, the lily, was actually snapped in half. Some of the leaves have been broken off down here and some of the petals of the actual flowers. So it's been reinforced. It's quite strong now. It will be able to go onto the wooden staff. And our next stage now is to start painting some of the green leaves and leaving the petals white.
Once fully painted and cured, the assembled lily and staff adorn the completed St. Joseph and Child Jesus. Standing almost 6 feet tall, the statue is very different from the cracked and whitewashed version it once was. And now installed at St. Anne Church, elevated, they'll stand watch once again over the congregation, joined next by the Virgin Mary. The Virgin Mary statue was beautifully sculpted, the biggest issue being thick layers of paint and several visible breaks in the plaster.
One of the areas where the whitewash buildup of paint from the past is most important to remove carefully and gently is on the face and hands. So what I've been doing here is to try to very softly take out the brush marks that were left here years ago, trying to get everything smooth, remove some of the outer layer of paint so that we can get the statue ready for the artist to resume her work.
With a broken leaf on her crown, a rubber mold creates an exact copy from the other side, the old to be cut off and replaced. Indoors now, the full statue cleaned, plaster dust removed, primer applied, and the decorative work begins. First, the off-white primary garment, Our Lady's blue mantle, then to the interior of her mantle, all in multiple tones for depth and resilience of the paint for years to come. With so many folds and sculpted curves and corners, the need for some additional minor plaster repairs only becomes evident when the base coats of paint are applied. Then it's back to the finer detail, such as the gold trim hand-painted over the yellow base all the way around Our Lady's mantle. The primary application of skin tones cure, while Pauline applies multiple layers of gold to the crown. It now looks more like a real crown on Mary's head, and not merely a sculpted attachment when the statue had been whitewashed. The colored jewels take many shades to appear three-dimensional. The facial tones, the hair, lip, and eye colors begin bringing the statue to life. Next, it's on to the finishing details, making the apple look more realistic, putting scales on the snake, and a review of all the lines, colors, and shades that make the restored statue ready to return to her place in the church across from St. Joseph, together watching once again over the congregation at St. Clement Church.